Okay, guys, I'll get straight into it. This is another train of thought video for people who don't know. This train of thought series that I do is basically just reflections that I may have about pop culture or my channel and just general things. Yeah. Um, I'll get straight into it. Like I said, I had an interaction, guys, on YouTube the other day. I'm being smart with my words. It was a quick exchange, semi-quick exchange in the YouTube comment section, right? Now, some of you may be thinking YouTube comment section is probably not a healthy place to be anyway. I believed it was. I believe it's a learning experience, um, because the exact conversation I was talking about was something to do with race, right? Myself and I'm going to call the person person A. Um, we were talking about claims of racism, right? This is over a like pop culture people, and the claim specifically was a counterpoint to yeah, it was a counterpoint and then a quick exchange to my point that yeah, there were some things that were uncalled for and so on in the debate. um I'm going to be looking at my notes, guys, because yeah, this exchange, it got me thinking about my commitments, just my general reflections as a YouTuber and just as a person that wants to grow, believe it or not. Um, the first thing is that I need to work on my confidence, clearly, critical thinking skills too, but I need to work on my confidence. I This conversation that I had, there was a certain point that is basically inspired this video where he I made the specific point clear too and agreed with him. But person A made it clear that what you're describing uh, isn't what you think you're saying. Isn't race. Race is a very serious thing, and about the power of words, right? And in response, I conceded and agreed with him. Yeah, we need to be careful with these words. These words are powerful. Um, and even though I still made that concession and that agreement, there was still a big disagreement that I had with his point of view, and I should have made that point and stood my ground on it and been more clear instead of just only conceding on one of his points. That was like the last bit of the exchange that we had, because he basically told me, yeah, he's not going to argue with me, and then he made a point which I responded and agreed and conceded to. But I definitely should have responded to him um, more clearly and spoken up about how I see things. Um, because it clearly shows that I have a fear. I know I have a fear of confrontation. It won't seem like it because I'm in the YouTube comment section, but I do, and I'm self aware of it, and now accepting, because self aware doesn't mean shit. Um, yeah, I have a fear and a panic in these situations where I pretend like it's only a learning exercise to have these sort of exchanges, um, when I know it isn't, because the feeling of like of feeling the guilt, whatever you want to call it, the disapproval for someone, I I usually I can't stand. So I respond by making it seem like I want to learn more, when in actuality it's just to me avoiding confrontation. Now, obviously, on his end, he wouldn't know that the specific reason why I'm not going into the specific exchanges, because this is more of a broad reflection of myself and my responsibilities. Um, Now, onto my second point, I believe I would feel more confident in these exchanges if I just had more knowledge and admitted earlier to my lack of self knowledge on on one hand, social issues, society, on the other hand, the place like identity politics, stuff like that, pop culture. You guys probably heard me in some of my reviews. Probably like give um, a quick like viewpoint that I'm not a fan of identity politics in pop culture and all that stuff. Um, but let me clarify what I mean when I talk, because of course some people shut off when they hear that idea. No, there's no place for. There shouldn't be any place. That's the problem with modern day pop culture. Here's what I mean by when I say I need more knowledge on identity politics um, in pop culture. I know that I have a responsibility as a black YouTuber to educate people on the power of words, because I know that whether people want to admit to this or not, even people who advocate against identity politics, we are all playing a game where there are many YouTubers I like who are men, but because they talk about issues of gender, I know they will be taken less seriously than a female who's more critical of modern day like social politics. I know as a black YouTuber, it's my responsibility. It's privilege, ironically, um, because people's idea of privilege apparently only applies to white men. It's a admission that I have a responsibility as a black YouTuber. Happens to be black. This guy doesn't know that I don't put my picture in my icon. Um, Person A, and it wouldn't matter regardless of his race. But I have that responsibility to be that person that helps the skeptical but still biased person, like I was being, um, open their mind and realize that you don't. That's just an arbitrary characteristic. If you have a logical argument to make about why this stuff is not needed, when we talk about the kind of things we like, pop culture, then if you can't understand that, then yeah, there's no place for you. You don't realize how much you're hurting the movement, which leads me to my second point. This person made a point when I was talking earlier about people, about the power of a word like racism, and about distinguishing. I responded and agreed with him, like distinguishing racism, which is discriminating against people because of like a racially prejudiced idea, versus prejudice, believing someone racial prejudice, believing someone is superior, or no, inferior to your group of people because of their race and because of yours. Those are two different things, and using both words in modern day, the branding is powerful. It's one of the most useless and powerful words in the English dictionary, as are several other words that we use against people, because that stink. A lot of people aren't man enough to admit that they jump the gun, claims of isms and schisms and phobias, and they're not considerate. They go straight to the witch hunt, or by omission, they just don't say anything because again they got the stink on them. Someone's branded them already. It's too late. You know they may go to them in private, but they'll be too scared to touch it. Like, oh, it's like a this is a bit weird. And that also the point that this guy made me realize, oh shoot, this is something that I was thinking about days prior over this one of the same YouTubers we were arguing over on this person's channel. But I was thinking this in regards to like distinguishing between like anti gay prejudice and homophobia, but I have thought this before, distinguishing between something like racism, discriminating, and like the phenomenon of discriminating against someone because of racial prejudice, and separating that from prejudice, and just both of those words and the power of words like that in modern day culture, right? So you don't have to understand anything I'm saying, by the way. It's just something I want to get off my chest because I wrote notes on it, like I said, and it's just considerations I have. Um, Secondly, yeah, it just made me just a hypocrite. It made me the SJW hypocrite with this guy's point that I wrongly believed I was veering away from the age of 17, 16, 15. I wasn't that. It was the opposite, clearly, that I didn't know how to separate some of my progressive views, which shows me that I just need to work on retaining knowledge. Because how is it that something that days before this argument, just it wasn't an argument, this interaction even occurred, days before this interaction even occurred, I was thinking the same thing and feeling annoyed at these kind of like comment sections and places like that where people use those words and brand people so easily. The day before, in fact, I was thinking something like this in regards to something to do with another guy's channel, and there's a sexism and misogyny, and branding someone as a rapist, or and then I'm doing the same thing when it comes to race. I don't want to be the stereotype of the black quote unquote anti the black the quote unquote black anti SJW YouTuber who agrees with a lot of critical points of like feminism and all these isms and schisms in these pop culture channels. But when it comes to race, they still have that same loose idea of what a racist is. They still overuse that word. I told him I I didn't actually explicitly say this, but I thought afterwards that yeah, I've become that person. I've become that SGW hypocrite, right? Which leads me to my last point, my third and final point. The last thing that this interaction taught me, the third thing, is just I just need to gain more knowledge on pop culture, read and watch certain stories and myths, and also just gain more general self knowledge in general. There are I've bought digital comic books on heroes like Luke Cage and Iron Fist, which I want to learn more about because partly because of stuff to do. There's so many other reasons. Partly to do with identity politics and my issues with that and how they were portrayed in the Netflix shows, in the failed Netflix shows. I've felt like I have a responsibility to learn about these characters because I feel like they are great, but they're not great based on what I've seen on screen. There's so many other stories that I want to, like just basic popular heroes, Marvel, DC heroes. I did one of my last, um, what you call it? My last train of thought video was about Greek myths. I'll put a description for that down below. I've always been a fan of that. I wanted to see more stories, just stories in general, that don't have necessarily anything to do with these politics that we rightly so want to avoid in our pop culture stories, in the fantasy genre in general. And I just want more knowledge on that. I want more knowledge because these some of these things fascinate me. Marvel Street Heroes, like I said, Greek myths, other. But then I also want to make the point and separate myself from the quote unquote SJWs and the quote unquote anti SJWs. I do the air quotes because I want people to know that I think there's a more specific point to be made. I just haven't fully realized that, and I need to work on. I want to say my essay writing, but I'm someone who does YouTube, so essay speaking, I guess. the way I form my arguments is not fully realized point in my head, and I need to do more reading. And the way I do that is by, for example, doing more book reviews. So I in my last train of thought video, when I was talking about Greek myths, there was a book I just read called Mythos on Greek myths, but I didn't review it. Why didn't I? That was the book that I was planning to review. All the movie compared to movie reviews that are so much easier, I should have done that, committed to that, and that's why, guys, I'm not just gonna talk. There are things. There's a book that I'm gonna commit to reading called Children of Blood and Bone. Right, these are the kind of things that I care about, and I think people who care about representation in both ways, intellectually and faces, should speak about. Children of Blood and Bone, for people who don't know, is a book about set in medieval West Africa. It has magic and martial arts and like class society, Game of Thrones ish type stuff. That's the kind of stuff we should be highlighting instead of me engaging in these interactions in comment sections, wasting my time. Not just because person A, again, is the reason I'm doing this video, and in a lot of ways, he has reminded me I need to focus. I'm talking about wasting my time being on a channel where I was talking to person A in the first place and had this bitter but self-reflective, um, I don't want to say epiphany because I've been thinking about this for a while on and off, for years actually, on and off, which is part of the problem. And I need to start taking forming my arguments seriously, which is another an irony because the one of the people who were arguing about, actually the person, yeah, one of the people we were arguing about was someone who was debating a YouTuber that I follow. We were on this channel, the YouTuber I follow, and this guy, it wasn't a debate actually, it was more like an ambush. But this guy clearly didn't, for all of his videos that he's done, he clearly didn't have that prepared, like simple point by point to argue against this other person. So, just like me, he wasn't prepared, and a simple clarifications would have prepared him, like it would have prepared me. But then maybe I wouldn't have been here if the person A, my interaction with him didn't go the way it did. Um, I want to like do what I also mean by gaining more like knowledge, not just reading like more books, some comic books about characters I'm intrigued in, but also watching, because I mentioned Children of Blood and Bone. I care about stuff to do. There's a certain pride I have. It's stuff to do with my identity. Children of Blood and Bone is a book about set in medieval Africa. I like that feeling of the Game of Thrones feeling that I don't feel like I got with the movie Black Panther. Um, there are British shows that I want to start watching and start engaging in more. Again, for those very same reasons, because there's certain pride. I want to get to a point where I have I can argue why there is to some degree value in identity politics in pop culture, just not in the way most people think. When they think of SJW, like this, or you're a ism, schism, phobic. That's not what I mean. But I see that I need to check myself because based on this interaction with person A, I've had this mentality, even if I thought that I was fighting against it. This stereotypical SJW mentality, right? So another thing that I just want to do is more non-fiction stuff, right? Um, Learning more in general, just gaining more general self knowledge. I like reading on history. I want to do that more. Um, econ books, just doing reading some culture books. trying to be self-critical of them in case they have any like quote unquote woke mentality to them. And for example, I'll show you a book I have. Where is it? There is sugar. Ah, a book like this, right? When we ruled. It's a book like this showcasing stuff to do with like African empires and all that stuff. A book that I've put off reading for the longest time. And there are some other books that I've tried to read like this, but I can feel like the wokish mentality entering into them. So I'm like, eh. But this one so far hasn't. This is just a book again that's basically about pre-colonial African kingdoms, and that's why I like it. So I wanna start engaging in stuff like this that is non-fiction that hasn't anything to do with like pop culture, but I just want to engage in them because I like them, and it'll help me have that more secure knowledge, so I'm more confident, and I can do better videos. But guys, even those videos to have like a base foundation of knowledge, those certain videos I might even just do on another channel or just have a separate. I would like to do it on the same channel, but it's important that I separate that from even the videos like this train of thought videos because I don't. It's important to me I don't promote the idea or don't get I don't give people the wrong idea that everything is about arbitrary characteristics to me. I am talking about a certain base knowledge in the world I live in this current world that I live in, but also about history, which I've been a fan of regardless of what continent the history is from. I talk about certain like historical based knowledge and culture, economic knowledge that I would love to learn about more. And this is something that I thought about doing on this channel. Um, and now, yeah, there's no excuses. I have to commit. Yeah, and just do. But also, obviously, the last thing, in order to do that, I need more. I need money. I won't lie to you. So I'm gonna brainstorm ideas. Maybe I'll start something like a Patreon account. I do have a PayPal account, but that's for my name. I'll probably need to start one under like the YouTube channel name. Um, but yeah, I definitely need to jump on that because I can't afford to buy. I need. There's something about physical copies. Like some of the books I've talking about, like Children of Blood and Bone, buying the digital copies of these books. The reason I haven't been committing it to them is laziness, definitely first and foremost, but also because I'm not going to pretend like I commit to things when they're not like tangible, physically tangible in my hands. When it's physical in my hands, there's an obligation to them in a way that there's never been with Kindle books, with like digital comic books, with other things, fiction, non-fiction that I've wanted to learn about. It's not the same thing to me reading the online article versus that I've always wanted to read versus something like this, something like Mythos. I have it over there. This is the book, Mythos, the Greek myth book that I've just finished reading recently. Um, yeah, there's it feels physical in my hands, so I'm gonna commit to reading it. So I may need to buy physical books. I want to avoid it as much as I can because of what's happening right now, quarantine and that. But yeah, I may have to commit. But in order to do that, I need more money because I can't just pay for all of this stuff from my stuff, my account, my funds. I don't have enough. Clearly, this video I should have done it last night because I was thinking over it last night, and I wrote, like I said, a lot of notes that I've looked at today. But I need natural lighting. As you can see, I do this in front of my window. I'm very dark skinned for people who don't know. I need natural lighting to do these videos, so I need to buy certain things to improve this channel, as well as certain things to improve the content. Um, and that's it. Yeah, I'm called the novice for a reason. I call myself the novice for a reason, not just because when I was young, I think I was like 13 or 14, when I thought of doing a channel. 13 or 14, mid-teens. Um, when yeah, in my mid-teens at one point, not just because I thought of that name as a good name for a channel or blog at the time, I believe, but because the novice is someone who is new to something, who wants to learn something. The student has to become the master, and there's certain commitments I had to make to just doing this stuff, pop culture stuff, um, learning more about like classic popular things that I feel like I've been barely level one, right? What's the point of this journey? I have to grow. If I don't grow, then I'm worse than the person I claim I want to be. I'm no, I'm worse than the person that I claim to have been in the past. I am the person who isn't even aware that they are ignorant, and that's a dangerous thing. And I can't, yeah, not anymore. This, this very simple, quick exchange, like 2 or 3 messages, has really got me thinking about things. So stay tuned. You definitely see more to do with just more stuff that will show my commitment to this channel. But also more stuff that will show that yeah, I I need to make more measures in order to improve the content and the quality of this channel and improve myself as a YouTuber, as a person of a fairly young age. Um, and that's it, guys. You didn't understand any of that. You didn't need to, but it's just something I need to get off my chest. I hope you like this video. Please check out my other train of thought videos that make a lot more sense, definitely. And if you like this video, any of my other videos, yeah, feel free to um, look around, see what you like. Have a good one.